Ken, you have a story to share about your tinnitus and how you recovered. What's your overall message for our community?
The message for me is that if I can habituate to my tinnitus, I believe that anyone can.
And you say tinnitus, I say tinnitus.
I
Let's
know, and I say
let's
and
start.
I have pulsatile tinnitus. I have pulsating tinnitus. Other people say pulsatile, so the both of them go both ways there.
Well, let's
So
start with how this began for you. Tell us about how long ago did this first
yeah,
become bothersome and what were your initial symptoms?
yeah. So it was really right before COVID, I started getting this type of banging in my left side of my head with this ringing sound that was kind of like a car backing up with a beeping. It would sometimes my whole head would pound, the left side, the back of my neck would pound. It varied a lot, but the sound was always there, and it was the levels would change as far as the really loud or if I was busy, I didn't notice it as much, but it kept progressively getting worse, and that's how it started for me.
And did you go to any doctors along the way? And
Yeah,
what did they find with hearing tests and other medical
yeah,
exams?
yes. I went to an ENT. They did a hearing test. Now I'm a professional photographer for 37 years. I've been listening to loud music every weekend for 37 years. My hearing for my age, which is 62, very little hearing loss, a little teeny bit in the left ear, but very little, nothing major that would, that was alarming. And I told them I had the pulsatile type of tinnitus. And they said, well, just got to live with it. So at first I said, okay. And then I know that with that type of tinnitus, that if they could find something, maybe they can fix it as far as a vascular problem or something. So I know that the other types of tinnitus really, you just have to. Really, there's no medical way of really doing it. So, but with the pulsatile, I said, I'm going to give it a shot. So I did every MRI, MRV, MRA, cerebral angiogram. I went to a hypnotist. I did upper cervical chiropractor. I tried every way. I did a CT of the temporal bone. I did every possible way, every test possible to see if they could find something. Because I spoke to one doctor in New York who specializes in this, and he pretty much said, if you can find it, we could hope most likely fix it. But they couldn't find anything. But during my journey in all this, I also did a lot of research. I found someone that Glenn Schweitzer, and he helped me once during all my medical tests. He helped me once a week in the habituation end of it. So I needed a diverse portfolio. If the medical end of it can't help me, I got to figure out how to do this with my mind. So that's what I did during my during this whole journey.
Okay, great. So you had some coaching on how to promote this natural brain process called
Yes,
habituation. And you're correct to say that most kinds of tinnitus, less than 1%, have a surgical or
right,
medication-based treatment to them.
right,
And the other treatments that help patients with tinnitus, sound therapy, one-on-one CBT, habituation coaching, that is all focused on promoting that habituation. So
correct.
for someone
Yes.
who doesn't really know what that means, how would you explain habituation and how did you see
Yeah.
that change in your day-to-day experience over time?
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, before I found any coaching, of course, I went online and I went to YouTube and I found a couple sounds that were these horrible beeping sounds that I put in my left ear that would sort of neutralize the other sound I was hearing. So I started with that. And then I, met up with Glenn and basically learned how to meditate with the sound of my tinnitus. Just concentrate on it and not try to avoid it. I just kind of faced it head on and just concentrated on it every time I possibly could. I would just concentrate on it, and what would happen is eventually my mind kind of got bored of it and it drifted away, and I didn't notice it didn't go away, but the reaction, the emotional reaction to it wasn't as strong throughout the process. Now it takes a long time, and I realize it's not a steady journey up. There's you go up a few steps, you come back, you go up, you come back, and it's not a direct line to success for me anyway. And so I wasn't expecting an overnight success. And then after a while, I said I didn't want to do the masking anymore because to me that was just was a mask. It was telling my brain, you're trying to hide something, and you got something powerful there, and you're trying to hide from it. So I said, I'm going to face this head on. I'm not going to mask it. I'm
How
just
were
going
you
to.
how are you using masking?
I was just using. I have with the earbud in my left ear. It was. I went through so many sounds, and the only sound that helped sort of neutralize it for me with these awkward beeping sounds. I tried many different sound machines, every sound out there on YouTube. I tried everything. The only one that really neutralized it for me was his beeping sound. You wouldn't really want to listen to it in the background, but for some reason that kind of neutralized it for me.
Well, I'm really happy that you've, gotten better. I mean, you've done it without an audiologist who specializes in tinnitus guiding you. You've done it without tinnitus sound therapy treatment on the ears. So, and it sounds like you've done it mainly for a pulsatile tinnitus, which can be a different program than a typical kind of ringing tinnitus or hissing
Right.
tinnitus. So,
Yeah.
you've definitely persevered and gotten on the other side of this. I agree that yes, meditation is really useful. I created a few years ago a 7-day meditation series for tinnitus, and the feedback was really positive. So there definitely is something about turning down that psychological reactivity to tinnitus, where
What
focusing on breathing and meditation helps. Is that what you found?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It was. There's a lot of times where it's there, and I say, what? Hey, how you doing? I say I talk to it, and I say, what? You're there, and for some reason, you're not really bothering me right now. It's your, and then I don't know. I kind of just talk to it it's just part of me, and it's kind of it's sort of been my superpower of living in the moment. And because when I first got it, I had a breakdown saying, how am I going to live like this for the rest of my life? I don't think I can do it. I mean, I've done a lot of physical challenges in my life. I did marathons, I did martial arts, any kind of physical thing. I knew that I could get through it. And the physical pain I went through with all that kind of thing, it never scared me. But this psychological pain, I never ever thought that I'd be strong or tough enough to even begin to deal with this. I really had a breakdown. I really
Yeah.
did, and then I just kind of fought through it, and I'm still not 100%. It's but I take it day by day now. I don't project into tomorrow, and I just take it day by day. And sometimes it's hour by hour. But the main thing for me is I know that when it gets really bad, I know it's not going to be bad forever. It's not going to be bad. It's probably going to be bad for an hour or two, if anything. But I just go with it. I don't obsess like, oh my God, here we go. It's never going to go away again. I just, I don't know. I'm learning how to really process it by the hour or by the day.
We want anything that can help us along the way, and you found some helpful tools, and we've shown that your brain can habituate to tinnitus at least to some significant degree already. Where was it at its worst in terms of scale of 1 very soft up to 10 very loud, or 1 not even noticeable, 10 constantly noticeable? Where would you have rated the tinnitus back then at its worst,
Oh,
and how about now?
well, a 10, 100. It was all day, all night. In fact, going to sleep I related going to sleep with the most horrible time of the day when just laying there. It was the scariest. It was like Pavlov's dog. As soon as I went into that room to go to sleep, I knew it was going to be horrible. So I kind of associated with going to sleep being horrible. So that's when it was really the worst part of the day. And what helped me was meditating on it, and also just kind of listening to podcasts and having my brain think about something else, and not I'm not trying to run from it, but just trying to give my brain something else to do. But now most time now, I say during most of the day, it's maybe a 1 or a 2. There are some times I call it's a stress barometer. When something is really stressful, it amps up, and it really presents itself very loud. But it does not nearly affect me like it used to.
And how long, how many months or years did it take to reach that?
Well, I've had this for 3 years, and I would say the last year has been when it really was manageable. Was really the emotional element was really came down a lot.
So it sounds like it was about a 2-year process. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
This is an interruption from today's podcast episode to announce the winner of the weekly Sunday Treble Health giveaway. Every week, we give away some of the most helpful tools to help you manage tinnitus. And all you have to do to qualify to be a winner is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, number one. And number two, go to treble.health/giveaway. Again, that's treble.health/giveaway. And put in your email address to join our email list. And with those two pieces of information, you'll be qualified to enter. This week's giveaway winner will receive a Sound Oasis BST100 sound machine. This device has almost 20 unique sounds that can be played for tinnitus, and it even has a computer chip that holds the sounds inside of the device. It does not rely on Bluetooth. This can help with your work from home station, your office, helping falling asleep at night. It has crickets, white noise, pink noise. Overall, it's a great product for sound therapy. So make sure you follow the link, treble.health/giveaway. It will be posted in the description of this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can qualify to win free tinnitus tools and sound therapy equipment. The results will be announced every Sunday during our weekly podcast episodes. This week's lucky winner is David M. David, congratulations. Enjoy your free sound therapy. Now let's get back to the Tinnitus Relief podcast. So what we typically see is the habituation period when you have the right tools set up can take between 6 and 18 months on average. And I do have some sort of feedback for you. Not that you did anything wrong at all, but simply saying,
Sure.
if you had come to me at month 2, what would I have advised? Maybe we would have done something different. And partly this is the fault of your local doctors who may not have just been experts in tinnitus, right? It sounds like you had to find out information on your own. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. And one thing I learned is it took me a while, but to get off all these sites that were negative, all these people who said, I'm going to kill myself, I can't do this, there's no way. I had to get off those sites because I'm thinking if they can't do it, I can't do it. And so I had to get off of any negative talk about it at all. I just done.
Some people might hear that and think, well, you're just tricking yourself. Why are you trying to do this positive psychology thing? Why don't you just stay in those groups and just, recognize that it's really hard for some people? Tell me your perspective on that,
Well,
of choosing to filter out the negative.
well there were some positive people on the group, and I did get a lot of information from them, but a lot of people, it wasn't worth the negativity of all the people saying that they can't do this, and they it was too scary for me. I did not want to be a part of that. So that's why I stopped being part of those groups. In fact, there's a lot of because when you do research for it, things pop up all the time, and I don't. If it's anything negative, I don't go to it anymore. In fact, everything of course popped up with all these different scammers trying to with all the different pills and the different things and this, and it's so many people out there trying to take advantage of your discomfort and your pain, and these pills are going to take away all that kind of thing, and I know that nothing like that works.
If you're watching this on YouTube here and this conversation is helpful, give Ken a thank you by commenting below either thank you or helpful. And particularly on this point of we have the choice to filter out negative information. And Ken, from your personal experience, you learned that it was easier for you to improve the condition when you were more selective in what information you allowed
Yeah.
into your waking consciousness, right? So why is that, right? So we have the Tinnitus Network. Part of that tinnitus brain network is linked to the emotional center of the brain. This controls the fight or flight. This controls fear and anxiety. And with tinnitus, negative information can trigger that system, which through a feedback loop can make the tinnitus louder.
Yes.
At the time, you were simply just trying to learn about the condition and what you can do and hopefully get some support from the community, but
Yes.
inadvertently, accidentally, it made your condition worse. Or perhaps a better way to say it is it kept you at a sustained activation of that limbic system.
Yes.
And once we
Correct.
could turn it down a bit, naturally your brain was able to improve. I'm really glad that we were able to talk through this, because I think a lot of people in our community are struggling with the same thing. And our YouTube channel here tries to be a place that is positive first, but also practical, scientific, and realistic, because we want to acknowledge that, yes, there is suffering with tinnitus and it can be extremely hard, but we also have to set the scene and the setting to give people what they really need to improve, just like you did. Do you have any comments on any of that?
I was going to say that when I was going through the medical end of it with the doctors, they had no idea about this type of tinnitus, the pulsatile, and they were very dismissive and almost mocked me in saying, "Well, you're not strong enough to deal with this. You're just not strong enough to deal with it, and that's it." And the medical end of it was very unsupportive for me because no one, like you said, there was no one educated in this. The ones that I went to anyway, and I went to a lot of different people. So that part was very disturbing for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. And I know others have experienced the same thing. Leave a comment below if that's happened to you too. Just write dismissed by doctors in the
Yes.
comment below so we can see who else has had that experience. And fortunately, you were able to, probably to some degree out of desperation, create this plan and use some tools that helped you get through this over those years. And tell us why you're making this video today. Tell us why you
Well,
volunteered to be
I
on
know
the
this will
podcast here.
sound, yeah, this will sound cliche also, but if I could help one person, then my to be the happiest person in the world. If I could help one person be motivated by what I'm saying. I wanted to give back really because people helped me and I had a supportive family. My wife was very supportive in all this, and she let me be when I had to be alone and do my thing. And she would, so that's helpful. Also having a supportive people, and I also learned that you are what you think. Because if I keep telling myself I can't do this, I can't do this, well, I'm probably won't be able to do it. So even if I didn't believe it in the beginning, I would say, I can do this. You got it, you got it, you got it. And I would look in the mirror and talk to myself, and I would say, you can do this. Come on, and I would have this whole thing I would say to myself in the mirror every morning, and I would smile. Even if you don't feel like smiling, it changes. I don't know, it changes something in your brain, and that's really for me. I had to fake it till I made it. I just got to keep talking positive and talking positive about this. When people say, "How you doing with your thing in your head?" I go, "We're doing great." It's just part of me, and I think it made me live in the moment and stay in the present and not worry about tomorrow.
So glad you're feeling better and that you pushed through the pain here. Pulsatile tinnitus. For those who don't know so many details about that, pulsatile tinnitus is the perception of hearing a sound that has a rhythm that's consistent with a heartbeat. And it may not sound like a heartbeat, but it usually has that kind of cadence or pattern to it.
Yes,
It can be in one ear, it can be in both ears. Ken, was yours in one or both?
it was in one. It was one my left ear, but it did sometimes it would be in the back of my throat. It would be it would pounding in my head. And that's why I went to an upper cervical chiropractor, because part of it could be something in your neck that's constricting some blood vessels and some that. I went to him for a year and nothing. So
You said that you went to a specialist in New York. What was the name of that doctor?
Dr. P, Dr. Palace, and I never can say his name right, but Dr.
Days.
P. That's him. Yes, correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
I interviewed him here on our podcast. Have you ever watched that episode? It was about 40 minutes interview with him, and he gave some tips on how to treat and diagnose pulsatile tinnitus.
I did not know.
Okay, great.
I will look.
Well, that's good for anyone who's watching.
Yes.
We'll try to link that in the description
Okay.
because
Okay.
yeah, for him something that was so huge is patient education, and we both shared that sentiment.
Yeah.
Information. I mean, think about it. He has consultations day after day, and people ask
Yes.
more or less the same questions. Usually, from my memory of that podcast interview I did with the doctor, he shared that we need to have a full sort of panel of tests to rule out different things. And if
Yes.
there is something that is abnormal on one of those tests and it has scientific evidence that it's connected potentially to pulsatile tinnitus, then it would support the idea of treating that condition or doing a surgery. And maybe that's a vascular type surgery, et cetera. So you shared that you essentially followed that model and got certain tests, but some of the times with pulsatile tinnitus, it can be elusive and tricky and hard to pinpoint. So
Yes.
nothing was strong enough to show that that there was hope or opportunity to do surgery in your case. Does that summarize it pretty well?
Yeah, what I did was I had all the tests done in New Jersey because insurance covers New Jersey, but not New York. I had all the tests done in New Jersey. I sent him all the scans, and he looked at everything. And The only thing he said was that if he would have done this cerebral angiogram, he might have done it differently because he would have known exactly where to look and what to do and the timing on how to put the dye in there and everything. So that's the only thing he said, that I might have done it differently, and maybe we would have found something. But other than that, everything I sent him, inconclusive.
Tell us about that mindset shift to go from I'm trying to find a physical cause and a medical cure to this,
Mm-hmm.
shifting from that to I might not find that. And now I have to learn how to reduce the condition, not cure it.
Yeah, well, during the whole medical, and it was over COVID, so everything took a lot longer to get the tests, a lot longer to get the results. So during
Yeah.
that, that's when I had the coaching during the
Yeah.
whole thing. So I didn't just do the medical and then start the coaching.
Yep.
I figured just in
Simultaneous.
case, yeah, just in case I can't find anything, I better get my mind, I better get help. Yeah,
Totally agree with that. That's exactly how we recommend getting care for tinnitus. And at Treble Health, we follow a similar model, which is we simultaneously want you to have an ear, nose, and throat ENT evaluation, further medical tests if necessary, an MRI if they recommend it, depending on your
sure.
history, and simultaneously have sound therapy treatment, have the one on one coaching, try meditation, focus on
Right,
your holistic sleep health because the medical team rarely brings the tinnitus to zero after a
right.
procedure,
Yeah,
or a medication rarely brings it to zero. So there's still this need to learn how to reduce it in a more holistic, comprehensive,
yes,
natural way. And that's where the habituation training comes in. So you followed that quite well. And, I imagine there wasn't a choice here, Ben. It was, I have to do this. I need everything I can get right
absolutely,
now.
absolutely,
Were
yes.
you working during this period?
Well, that's see, that's the problem too. Over COVID, not really. So when I'm doing my photography and I'm interacting with people, I never, even at its loudest, I wouldn't notice it because I'm interacting with people and I'm physically interacting with people and doing my thing, and it's fine. But during COVID, nothing. So it was a double zinger. I had this trying to go through this and nothing to do. So it was nothing but hearing this horrible pulsating, ringing, banging. It was really, it was. But then now, when COVID let up a little bit, and then I'm working a lot now, it's a lot better.
Really glad to hear that. Tell us about how this affects you right now, the average day. How does your tinnitus affect you, and what kind of modifications or behavior changes or tools are you using every day now to help?
Well, first let's see. The only time it, for some reason, it affects me, I hear it more as when I'm driving. I don't know why. It used to be at night. It used to be in the morning, but for some reason, when I'm driving, it's more noticeable. But other than that, I get up in the morning, I talk to it, and I say hello, good morning. I look in the mirror, and I talk positive things. The first thing I do, and then I go. I have a dog. I walk my dog. I play with my dog. And then I've been so busy with work, so then I'm heading to different photo jobs. But so day to day, it's not bad. And going to sleep now is I don't have that anxiety and that horrible feeling of laying down in the bed and going, here we go. In fact, for some reason, that's almost the quietest at night. I mean, it makes no sense to me at all. But when I'm not, it's not bad at night. I lay there in bed, and whether I'm listening to a podcast or not, it's not terrible at night. And that was the worst time.
Yeah, let's change the topic slightly. Tell me about our videos here and other kinds of helpful information that you found online. And what do you think is the most influential or the most impactful videos that you found here on our YouTube channel, or other kinds of online resources for others?
Just the positivity that there's help out there. Nothing specific of what the possibility, with the specific things to do, but just that there's people like you, especially you, because I don't really know anyone else that is really looking to improve this for people, and that's so enlightened. It is so, I'm so happy about that. That there's people that are trying to help people like me and all the other people out there. Because if you don't have this, you have no idea what this is. You cannot even describe what this is. So you know what it is. Do you have it at all? Did you have
I
it?
do have mild tinnitus, which I've had for about 8 years,
Okay.
and it's very manageable in the sense that it doesn't interfere with my day-to-day functioning.
Okay.
I hear it in
Yeah.
quiet places, and I hear if I'm stressed, it can be louder. When I had COVID, it was louder.
Okay.
Otherwise, I haven't gone through this sort of flip my life upside down, constant loud tinnitus, which is what
Yeah.
most people who seek help for it have.
Yeah, no, in the beginning, I did watch a lot of your videos, and it felt like there was hope there. I don't watch too many videos anymore because I
That's
don't.
probably a good thing. Don't put it in your mind.
That's exactly what it is, and nothing against you or any, but I don't really watch them anymore. I still get your emails, and I read about everything you say, and the different possibilities out there. That one in what's it, the linear process, the linear bimodal
Bimodal
stimulation.
stimulation. Mhm.
Yeah, so I know that's not in America yet, but I don't know if that would help pulsatile anyway. But I try not to. I read about it, but I don't want to read about it because I don't want to. I'm good with what I'm doing, and I don't want to put it in my head like, well, you're still looking for something else. You're still looking for a medical way to try to help this, and it kind of makes the thing in my head like, well, maybe you can't really handle it. Maybe you do need a medical way to handle this. So it's I read about it, but I don't want to read about it. I don't know if you understand that.
That reminds me a bit about this dating app, which is called Hinge. And it says the tagline is the dating app designed to be deleted. So, similar thing with tinnitus resources is that they're designed to be used until you're better. And then hopefully you won't need to use them anymore. Right.
That that,
That's how
that
we
sums it up.
approach
Yeah,
tinnitus maskers. That's how we approach a lot of our educational information here is that once we get this to the right place, then it's more of just maintenance, maintaining
exactly.
the
Yes,
improved level that you're at.
yes. That's where it is. That's exactly it.
But
Yes.
Ken, please don't unsubscribe. That I would take it personally.
Oh, no, no, no! I will
I'm
not
just kidding.
unsubscribe. No, 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 no.
All right, Ken. Well, thank you so much. Photographer, man with a family in New Jersey, who was able to. You're able to share really your full story here. What worked for you? What were your challenges? I know this will help hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are watching this. So I really value your time and your just your presence here. Do you have any final words here for the tinnitus community before we sign off?
Don't give up. Like I said, if I could do it, I was in a bad place and never thought I could possibly get anywhere with this. But it takes work, but you can do it.
Thank you so much, Ken. Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Ben. You got it. Bye bye.
Thank you for watching today's video with Treble Health. Check out our next video by clicking the button on this screen or another recommended video. And if you're not already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks so much. See you on the next video.